Poor single dad let a lost girl stay the night, not knowing she was the billionaire's daughter. It was already dark when the knock came. Not a confident knock, but a small, uncertain tap, like someone was afraid the door might never open. Mark almost ignored it. He was tired, broke, and worn down by a long day that had given him nothing but silence and bills he couldn't pay. But something told him to stand up anyway. That one small decision would change his life forever. Before the story begins, take a second to support the channel. If stories about kindness, humanity, and unexpected miracles touch your heart, please subscribe, like this video, and leave a comment below. You're watching Kindness Tales, where small acts of goodness create big ripples. Now let's begin. Mark Reynolds was a single dad living in a small rented house on the edge of a quiet Midwestern town. The paint on the walls was faded, the roof leaked when it rained, and the furniture was a mix of thrift store finds and hand-me-downs. But it was home. And it was all he could afford since his wife passed away 3 years earlier, leaving him to raise their 8-year-old son, Noah, on his own. Money was always tight. Mark worked 2 jobs, days at a warehouse and nights driving for deliveries. He skipped meals so Noah could eat better. He wore old shoes so his son could have new ones for school. Life had taught him to expect very little and give everything anyway. That night, Noah was already asleep on the couch, a comic book resting on his chest. Mark turned off the TV and stood quietly for a moment, listening to the house breathe. Then came the knock again. Soft. Careful. When Mark opened the door, he saw a little girl standing on the porch. She couldn't have been more than 9 or 10. Her hair was neatly tied back, her clothes were clean but rumpled, and her eyes were wide with fear. She clutched a small backpack to her chest like it was the only thing keeping her upright. "Hi," she whispered. "I'm sorry. I'm lost." Mark's heart dropped. He looked up and down the street. No cars. No parents. Just empty road and streetlights humming above them. "What's your name?" he asked gently. "Emily," she said. "I got separated from my driver at the gas station. My phone died. I didn't know where else to go." Mark hesitated. He was a father, but he was also a man living in a world where trust didn't come easy. Still, the fear in her eyes reminded him of Noah the night his wife didn't come home from the hospital. "You're safe here," Mark said finally. "Come inside." He gave her a glass of water and asked a few careful questions. Emily knew her first name, her father's name, Thomas, but not much else. She said they were traveling through town and stopping for fuel when she wandered off. By the time she realized it, the car was gone. Mark tried calling the police, but the local station said officers were tied up for the night and would send someone in the morning. He offered to take her back to the gas station, but Emily shook her head, exhausted and scared. "Can I just stay here tonight?" she asked softly. Mark looked at Noah sleeping peacefully and then back at the girl. He nodded. "You can sleep on the bed," he said. "I'll take the couch." Emily smiled for the first time that night. Mark made her a simple dinner, grilled cheese and soup. She ate quietly but gratefully. Later, Noah woke up and rubbed his eyes, confused to see a stranger at the table. "This is Emily," Mark said. "She's staying with us tonight." Noah smiled. "Okay. Do you like superheroes?" Emily laughed, and just like that, the house felt warmer. The next morning, Mark woke early and brewed coffee. Emily sat at the table, drawing pictures with crayons Noah had left out. She seemed calmer now, almost cheerful. Then, around 8 a.m., the sound of engines filled the street. Black SUVs rolled in, shiny and expensive, completely out of place. Men in suits stepped out, scanning the area with serious expressions. One man rushed toward the house, his face pale with worry. "Emily," he shouted. The girl ran outside. "Daddy." The man dropped to his knees and hugged her tightly, tears streaming down his face. He held her like he might never let go again. Within minutes, the quiet street was buzzing. One of the men approached Mark and introduced himself as security. Another explained that Emily's father was Thomas Wright, a tech billionaire whose face Mark vaguely recognized from news articles. Mark felt dizzy. He had let a billionaire's daughter sleep in his house. He had fed her grilled cheese and given her his son's bed. Thomas Wright walked over slowly. He looked at Mark, really looked at him, and then extended his hand. "Thank you," he said, his voice shaking. "You have no idea what you've done for me." Mark shrugged, embarrassed. "I just did what anyone should do." Thomas shook his head. Not everyone would. Later that day, Thomas invited Mark to sit down and talk. He listened as Mark shared his story, about his wife, his jobs, his struggles. Mark didn't ask for anything. He never mentioned money. He just spoke honestly. Before leaving, Thomas handed Mark a card. "If you ever need anything," he said, "please call." Weeks passed. Life went back to normal. Bills piled up. The roof leaked again. Mark assumed the card was just a polite gesture. Then one afternoon, Mark got a call. It was Thomas. He offered Mark a full-time position at his company, managing a local distribution center. The salary was more than Mark had ever earned. Health insurance. Paid time off. Stability. On top of that, Thomas quietly paid off Mark's debts and arranged a college fund for Noah. When Mark tried to refuse, Thomas stopped him. "You showed my daughter kindness when you had nothing to gain," he said. "Let me return it." Years later, Mark would tell Noah that the most important thing he ever did wasn't working hard or saving money. It was opening a door. Because kindness doesn't ask who someone is or what they have. It just shows up. And sometimes, when you choose kindness, the world answers back in ways you never imagined. So if you ever hear a knock at your door, literal or metaphorical, remember this story. A small act of compassion might be someone's miracle. And it just might change your life too. Thank you for watching Kindness Tales. May this story remind you that kindness is never wasted, and the good you give always finds its way back.